Hi, and welcome to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Omvic and Crown. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. I'm joined today by George Iny, the president of the APA, and John Raymond, also with the APA as a consultant and industry expert. This show is based on caller interaction and the people that contact us because they need help. Can you tell us a little bit about the APA's role in that? You've been around a long time now.
So we work in the public interest at the Automobile Protection Association. We're here to represent the consumer in almost any matter related to ownership or use or repair of an automobile. And we're really a clearinghouse, so we get the information in from the public, we speak to the experts, we distill it, and then the answers go out from us using basically a kind of a cumulative brain.
And often if we don't have the answer, we have a very good directional to point that consumer who's calling in and say, no, that's an insurance question, contact that person. This is a body shop question, and we're gonna get you with the right expert.
I know we have a great network, and this show has been one of your resources for a long time now. You've been doing it. I've been doing it. This is the 6th season that I've been here in this spot, which kind of blows my mind, which is great. But the people that contact you, me, us, the show in general, really give it the lifeblood. Like it really is.
That's right.
The
so
place.
Call us.
Yeah,
it's important for us. We need to hear from you.
Yeah, and a lot of people, a lot of viewers were used to it with the shift. You know, some growing pains are having to locate us and find it, but we still have the same service. We still provide the same insight into the industry. And I don't think there's a part of the industry that we don't touch upon. I'm trying to come up with, it's the way I write as well, but I really think there's not much that we don't interact with.
And whether you email us or you call in on the number on your screen, this is part of the brain trust, okay? We take your questions seriously, and we understand, you know, the heartache, the pain, and the investment that you have sitting there, and we're about giving advice that you could act upon. And that's always been the nature of this show. It's always been part of the APA logic.
We did have one viewer that called in to let us know what he thinks of the new format. Maybe, would you like me to play that for you guys?
Please.
That'd be interesting.
Hello, my name is Lloyd. I'm calling from Kitchener, Ontario. I have been a very long time APA member, probably right from the beginning. And I finally found the program on CHCH-TV, but now I find out it's only half an hour. That's not nearly long enough. You need to extend it to an hour to make it worthwhile tuning in. I mean, I saw one question only.
Okay, Lloyd wants the hour back. We always had an hour, and I got to admit, he's right. We'd fly through 30 questions sometimes, which would stack
Lloyd's
up.
not the only one, and we are working very hard on a format to answer more questions, but it could only be done with viewers like him calling in or emailing us with their questions.
So bear with us. We're going through some changes in format with the shift, but it's going well.
We do have, with the helpline, the ability at least to record your question, and I'm hoping that that will allow us to fill the show, because that's the most fun part for us, and it's the one thing that makes us different from almost any other automobile expert, is that we're actually in there dealing with real world problems.
And I think one thing we've discovered, or at least I have doing this show, is that you're watching, and if that's not a problem you're having that week, might be interesting, might not be interesting, all of a sudden, a month, a year later, that's your problem, and you want to pick up and call. So we hear the same questions frequently over and over again, but unless it's something that's on your landscape right now, you're not really thinking about it. And then when it is, it really is, and you care, and you want to know the backstory, you want to know which manufacturer's been having issues with this, whether they are going to do a recall. All of a sudden it becomes pertinent because it's in your driveway. So I think sometimes that's...
And, you know, a lot of consumers need a place to vent to, and be told that they're not crazy. There is a problem with their car, and there is an avenue to repair it or to handle a claim that they may have.
So one thing that can come up is you have a warranty, and you keep going back, but they can't fix it. And for a lot of people, they're just boxed when they call us. They don't know what to do. They keep going back. They're getting ground down. And so John has the tricks to kind of get the ball rolling again.
Well, sometimes another set of eyes on the problem.
Correct, but then you
helps.
might have to open your wallet.
It's
well worth it.
But
An
also
hour of
just
diagnostic time, somebody else to give them a what else it could be question.
But also for who you're dealing with, when they have another voice coming in that's not yours anymore, that can help. It just turns it
What
enough.
we find too is, I feel, it's counseling. So when someone calls our office, which I'm there a few times a week, answering all these calls, is to counsel them exactly what the problem is, how did it materialize, how are they driving, who else is driving their car, obviously what are they driving, what the ages are, and all these things.
It takes some of the
And once
emotion
we calm them down and then we get to the heart of it, often we can easily help them with their problems or give them the tools that they could solve their own problems, whether it's at a dealership or with a brand or at their local garage. even.
Bridging an information gap and an understanding gap sometimes. We'll be back after this break with more Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Anvik and Crown. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Anvik and Crown. I'm Lorraine Sommerfeld. I'm joined by George Iny and John Raymond. We're talking about consumer protection, and when you're buying cars, when you're repairing cars, the law isn't always very clear for people. We hear a lot of usually Americanisms about lemon laws and things like that, but we do have layers of laws. We do have consumer protection. It's quite good, actually, in Canada.
It's good on the books. It's not good on the ground because nobody's making sure that the car makers actually provide you the remedies in what are called the warranties that you get with a vehicle, the legal warranties, not the ones in the book. And so you end up in situations where you do have a right to have the product perform properly or return it for a reimbursement, but the car maker never recognizes that, so you've got to go to
And
court.
the consumer is not informed on what avenues they have. So often it's too late by the time they find out that there is an avenue. They've either expired in terms of time, distance, or what have you.
So I'll give you an example. Just last week, somebody is driving a smart car in Ottawa, and it catches fire. Now, they didn't have insurance for fire on their car. It's an older car. They were only insured one way. They're stuck. Cars is completely, like, it's plastic, a smart. There's not very much left after a fire. And no one's aware. Like Mercedes said, nope, they're not doing anything about it. And so that's where the APA might be able to come in. That person would have a claim against the manufacturer if they don't have insurance. And the other thing is smarts are burning up. We need to hear from you because there's been a few cases of it, and Mercedes is basically, in Canada, it would appear, not investigating. They're waiting for the decision to come out of the States.
I think you just uncovered 6 this week?
Well, CBC found 2, and we found 4. And Mercedes' answer was they're not doing anything. They're waiting until the results of an American investigation. So the problem in Canada is these 6 incidents, only 1 was reported to the federal government, to Transport Canada, who have the authority to investigate this. And so that's one of the concerns. So we're looking for that. BMW 4-cylinder engines, another one, the N20, it's an engine from roughly 2011, 2012 till 2015. We're seeing expensive failures, either of the turbo or the timing chain assembly, and we need to hear from people.
Why do manufacturers kick it down the road? And I mean, they're all guilty of this to a degree. We're not lambasting any one because, frankly, they can all jump in the pot at various points. I'm still angry at GM for the ignition thing. And I call it death accounting because they can afford to.
In the case of GM, I would tell you the last 3 or 4 years, they seem to really have done like the impossible. It took a bankruptcy and a few dead people, but they've done an extraordinary turnaround in terms of the way they follow up on their complaints, extending warranties, issuing recalls. So it shows that even this big, kind of messy, large company that was extremely mediocre for a long time is actually able to drive excellence internally if it wants to.
And we've seen that at every level, even at the dealer level, where the dealer could actively get involved for their client's behalf and work with GM. And it's working, and we never saw this in a long time.
Why don't manufacturers, like we see them delay and delay and delay, all of them.
Cost.
Yet something like GM, it's cheaper to address it and not have deaths. And I know there's a certain number that they're willing to tolerate, any of them.
Also, these manufacturers spend millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to attract new clients. It's cheaper to maintain a client.
Yeah.
than to bring in a new one. And
Yeah.
yet you'll often spend a lot more trying to get a new one instead of keeping the old ones from leaving. Maybe it's human nature. I don't know.
You
It's
mentioned
often-
Transport Canada. We've seen more teeth in recent years coming out of Transport Canada. Is that because it's just given itself new powers for recall? Is it because somebody cares that's at
Two
the helm?
words. Mark Arnault.
Okay.
That's it. Transport Canada has outdated legislation, needs to be fixed a bit. They need to spend a little more on defect investigations. We're cheap in Canada
Okay.
about that.
We let the U.S. do it.
We're lucky because we benefit from the more robust situation in the U.S. and it doesn't cost us much. I would like to see more attention. There is a bill making its way through Parliament now. Hopefully that will see more tools for the government when a car maker is sloppy or in bad faith. I give you the example of Chrysler. They'll announce a recall, so they know at that point they're not. It's over, right? You just go home. We issued a recall. Then we don't supply parts for 1 to 2 years after. We let people wait. So in fact, what they learned is that by not doing the recall but announcing the recall, they could still save money and not be bothered with it. So it took a long time before governments realized, hey, wait a minute. We need to keep them on the radar after the recall so that the work the corrections get out.
So having the law isn't enough. It's got to have teeth in it so that we can actually make it function.
Or you want to encourage a culture of best practice, one way or another. So you do need both a carrot. It would be a stick. It would be nice to have a carrot too, but at least you need one. You need at least a bit of a stick for the people who think it's cheaper not to do the job.
And the APA has been asked at both the Senate and the House committees that is looking into this legislation to have APA input. George has spoken now on 3 occasions. So they're really looking out at consumer groups, specifically the APA, to look at some common sense approaches and how they could add this into legislation.
This is where this show comes from and where it's going. Working on consumers' behalf. We'll be back after this break. Lemonade Car Show. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Omvic and Crown. I'm with George Iny and Brian Early. We're talking about service, problems with service, biggest problems we're all hearing about.
Well, how to get it fixed.
How to get it fixed. One of the biggest problems we hear frequently is a recurring problem that's also a ghost problem. It doesn't happen when you take it in to get it fixed to the shop. And as you know, to hand in your car and leave it for a week, for some people, that's the last ditch option because they can't find it. What do? Got to shake, got to shimmy, got to noise.
Well,
You
for
can
noise, I would tell you,
noise.
sorry, for noise, use your phone. If the phone will capture the noise, bring it in and play it
Absolutely.
for the people.
Not everybody can imitate the sound their car makes.
Oh, you can try.
Oh yeah.
I've had people call me and say it's going. Okay.
Try and remember what the ambient conditions, like what corner of the car it came from, or what temperature it was.
We depending on what the particular concern is, we have a whole laundry list of questions we ask, and it includes, how long has the car been running when this happens? If it was recently started cold, have you been driving for a while? The weather outside, temperature and rainfall, because rainfall can make a big difference, believe it or not. Bushing is wet in the suspension, the squeak goes away for a while. Just all these sorts of things. Does it happen at high speed? Does it happen at low speed? Over bumps, smooth roads, going around corners? Depending on what it is, there's lots of different ways that the owner of the vehicle can help us. We want to fix it. We want to get to the bottom of it. But if we can recreate it, because you've told us the conditions it occurs under, then we got a better chance.
A lot of times I tell people not to discount how much you can forget quickly. So if you make an appointment for Monday and this is Thursday and it's happening, get out a piece of paper and write down exactly what it's doing and look around you, like all the environmental things that you mentioned. It's like when you go to the doctor and they say, what did you eat all week? And you go, oh, I had this, 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 and this. I don't know why I'm gaining weight. If you actually write it down all day, you're going, whoa, that's not good. And if you lie to your doctor, how much do you drink? And you say 2 glasses of wine a week. They can't fix you if you're broken, if you don't tell them the truth. So not that you're trying to lie to your mechanic, but you forget. You forget so many things in the moment.
There's that, and I think there's a little bit of a mindset that, the less you say about how the problem occurred that might be your fault, the less it'll cost to fix it. And no, the more information we have, in many cases, the less it'll cost you to fix it.
I think the one exception might be when you have a warranty.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Then they
people
play
on
it
the new
up.
car warranty,
In that
no,
case,
people go dumb.
silence is golden at that point.
You just pray. The other thing also is that if it's a really hard to diagnose thing, maybe try and reach the technician if you're in a larger shop. It's not always permitted, right? Or it's not always
No.
easy to do. You may only be with the service writer. If that's the case, write down before you go in what you're going to report and ask them to write it into the work order. I remember many years ago having a situation where a consumer's own independent shop told them that they had noisy valves. The service writer put check noise, and it came back muffler okay. So because it was a case of broken telephone, each person's message was slightly different than the last. So if you can help out by making sure the work order is filled out properly, especially if you go in, like when everyone's dropping off their car between, say, 7:30 and 8:30, it's really busy. They don't have a lot of time. Try and help them by showing them what you want written in if you
And
can't
you have to
speak to
remember
it.
too, a lot of the cases, the service advisor is not mechanically inclined at all. They're there as a customer liaison between the shop and the customer. And they just don't even realize they're omitting critical details.
You brought up warranty, and we've discussed this in the past. To make sure, if your vehicle's under warranty and something is happening, and you don't know what it is, and they can't fix it, it's really critical that the paper trail has been started while it was under warranty.
Oh yeah, document.
But there's also a problem is if they don't close out the.
That's right.
Can you
People
explain this?
Well, if a car maker isn't paying the dealer and they haven't found the problem, the dealer knows that if they close the warranty, the repair order, they're not going to be able to resubmit for the same job again.
So it's important that.
They keep it open, but unfortunately you don't have a copy at that point because it was never closed.
But you need to make sure it's been.
Either that or get a photocopy, something that
Okay.
shows you went in, some
That-
kind of
that's
a
big deal.
record.
A lot of people think because I went to my dealership, I
You have
told
no
them about
paperwork.
it, they did it. But if they don't finish that off, then it
No.
is not showing.
And sometimes
as-
the internal paperwork is too vague for it to be tied into your problem.
So you need to be on that, especially if you're close up to that warranty period. You want to establish that you have brought it to their attention and it wasn't resolved to your
There's a certain amount
satisfaction.
of responsibility on the part of the consumer for sure.
Oil consumption,
Yes.
especially on warranty. Any tips for people who are like, they make you go through a test?
Yeah, they're.
This is a Subaru issue, by the way,
Oh,
big time.
not just Subaru.
Who
No,
are you
we're
thinking?
actually seeing oil consumption across the board. Not any one specific manufacturer. Just it's kind of becoming a
But in
widespread
terms-
thing.
Right.
But excessive oil consumption, yeah, what a lot of the manufacturers will do is they'll do an oil change, set the level at a specific level, and then tell you to come back in 1,000 kilometers or whatever and reevaluate the position of the oil and determine at that point if the consumption is, quote unquote, excessive. But you'll find the window for excessive oil consumption is pretty big with
Kind of
some of the
elastic?
manufacturers.
Well, it could be 3 liters or 4 between oil changes on some cars if the car maker is
Yeah.
really trying not to pay for repairs. I mentioned Subaru because they've just come out with a program for Canada.
Oh, they did.
Yeah,
Because
and
they
they
did
claim
states.
1 liter per 6,000 K. If you're over that, you can come in and they will do one of these tests and possibly do some repairs after.
Good news for Subaru owners, because I know they've been waiting to hear that
About a decade.
about a decade. We'll be back after this break with more Lemonade Car Show brought to you by Anvik and Crown. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show, brought to you by Anvik and Crown. I'm here with George Iny and Brian Early. Thank you for staying. Our viewers can also reach us on Twitter. We're at Lemonade Car Show, and one of them did, and this is for you,
Okay.
Brian.
Good.
I have a Toyota Prius 2017 with 10,000 kilometers, and it's 2 months old. Fuel economy has slightly gone up. Can the OBD2 diagnose the hybrid battery, the onboard diagnostics?
I'm assuming the gentleman's complaining about increased consumption, so yes and no. OBD2, like a generic scan tool, will do nothing unless there's a code set. But if you have a Toyota compatible scan tool, and these are the expensive ones that shops have, generally speaking, you can go into Toyotas and look at, they cluster the cells together, because there's several hundred cells in there, you can't look at them individually, but they'll put them in groups, and you can look at the state of health of individual groups.
I suspect the problem, even though the caller thinks it's the hybrid battery at 10,000 kilometers, may be somewhere else, if there's a problem at all.
I tend to agree.
I think what the issues I've seen with especially people that are new to this technology when they're driving these cars is the climate can have he's used the word slightly, so I'm going to use it too. That can slightly impact the fuel economy. And if you bought it in the summer and it was hotter out and then the temperature started to go down a little
It's
bit.
still to your benefit. When it's temperate, because you don't have the AC on necessarily, so this is probably
Did you have the same summer I had? Nobody had the AC on.
fair enough. That's good. You're right.
Also driving styles. Brian was,
Apparently, even in a Prius, the oil level, if you fill it right to full versus having it a half a liter low, apparently can make a difference.
Wow.
so there's different factors at play. And so if this isn't the vehicle that you're used to, and we're talking about driving patterns, the way you tend to drive when you're a squeaky clean new EV owner and
Well, the novelty of your new toy, you don't want to break it, and then as you get more comfortable with it.
Theoretically, I mean, the Toyota has like an onboard coach. I presume the color is checking, because the coach would monitor your driving
Yes.
styles. A dragging brake caliper, is it possible?
It's potentially, yeah. I wouldn't expect to see it that early in the
10,000
vehicle's
K,
life, but
right.
it's certainly possible.
you can get it checked and they'll be able to tell them if there's an issue.
Yeah, checking a dragging brake is quick and easy. That's fast.
I would tell you, when it's small fuel consumption issues, like very difficult to hunt them down.
If the gentleman's talking a couple of tenths of a liter, 100K,
Okay.
you're not finding that quickly.
It's not gonna, so just keep an eye
And
on
if
it.
there's a big enough problem in the battery pack, the car will flag it.
So the car take care of itself.
Well, it will let you know that it's sick.
Yeah,
But
the
we
light
do
will
get-
come on for a battery pack issue.
There are brands of vehicles where consumers consistently reported bad fuel consumption. Fords are an example. They're not consistent on every example with a particular engine, but they don't trigger a fault, and it's very difficult. Presumably an engineer with unlimited time would find it. Often those people just end up having to grin and bear it.
Okay, we're talking about fuel consumption. I'm going to move off this question and into the topic in general. We used to see the posted fuel consumption numbers that I said it was like a leprechaun and a unicorn got together in the back room and made up numbers because they had nothing
Yes.
went. In the real world was not even close. Volkswagen was the closest I ever had with cars that I'd flip out every week. Volkswagen, and then they brought out diesels. Anyway, we're seeing that the laws
Some
have
bitterness, Lorraine?
changed. Can be a little bit pointy sometimes. The postings are getting better. We're seeing.
No, they got better
They got better? Okay.
because the test, it's a lab cycle. It's not a real test on the road.
Yeah.
And the car makers have now, once again, slowly learning how to
Play it.
tweak it. Right, so you get turbocharged automobiles. They're loafing in the lab. The turbo is not working at all. But then on the road, when you start to drive it a little hard, the fuel consumption goes up a lot.
So we're
So
getting
we're
off
seeing-
them again?
Yes, it depends on the car. The worst one we had recently was a BMW, the last series of the X1, again with their four-cylinder engine, and that was off by over 30%.
Wow, that's substantial.
Yeah, and we had in the same test Honda V6, and that one was spot on with its official rating.
Because I know from my mail, I've been doing this a dozen years, and my mail will peak and peak and peak to, I'm not getting, I bought this car, it's supposed to be posting these numbers, and they post me their numbers. They take photos of the cluster telling me. It's been quiet for a couple of years. Like, that mail has dropped off because
sure.
people were getting what they bought, and they were achieving close to those numbers.
The lesson for the regulator is that they should be doing a compliance audit to see how their on-road consumption compares with the lab test, and if the test needs to be modernized again, to do that.
Well, the old test cycle was based on 1955 Los Angeles.
Seriously?
Yes, seriously.
know that.
The original one.
Maximum speed of 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Sorry, 90 kilometers an hour. No air conditioning because cars didn't have it when the test was developed. No cold weather operation.
Light traffic.
But in the end, the car makers anyway were able to design the vehicle so that it would perform better on the rollers than it would on the road. And that's, again, what's happening. It's normal. You're studying for the test. So the people who set the test need to change the questions once in a while to update it.
I just think it's difficult for consumers who, you're trying to intake so much information at the point of sale and at the point of your computer, like you're
Lorraine,
trying
you
to
know what
educate
happens?
yourself.
Lorraine,
I know they
you
get
got to
in there
get
and
rid
lose
of
their
this
mind.
old car of yours because the new one's going to save you 30% on gas. That's going to match your car payment. First of all, it doesn't. Secondly, you get it and you realize it's not 30%, it's maybe 15 or 20%, which is still very good, but wasn't the inducement that was made to get out of your old vehicle.
You're so cynical, George.
No, that's what we see
I
when we secret shop. We do visit dealers all the time, and that's exactly the case. Ford dealers were the worst for a while when those new EcoBoost engines came out. They promised you'd be using 7 liters per 100K, and the owners were telling us 11. At one point, we went from the showroom to the service department, pretended we'd already bought the car and asked for the fuel consumption. And they were worried we were going to complain because it was using too much, so they said 11, 12, on a car we had just been told would be between 7 and 8.
So that kind of negates any of the things that we're trying to do to keep our cars healthy by changing the oil and rotating the tires and bringing it in twice a year. Sometimes it's stacked against you any which way. That's all the time we have for the Lemonade Car Show. I'd like to thank my guests, George Iny and Brian Early, and Omvik and Crown, and of course, I'd like to thank you viewers. I'm Lorraine Sommerfeld.